Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about my top 5 most entertaining football matches of 2025. This season has genuinely been an incredible one for football, and I've been lucky to watch some of these games live. Now, just to be clear, this list is purely my personal opinion. You might have a completely different top 5, and that's totally fine. The point is simple, I'm ranking the 5 most entertaining football matches I personally watched this year based on drama, chaos, storyline, and for football madness. And number 5, I've gone with the Champions League final between PSG and Inter Milan. And yeah, this one makes history because this was the most one-sided Champions League final of all time. And honestly, it felt even worse than the scoreline suggests. Inter Milan came into this final as one of the best defensive teams in Europe. Experienced, organized, balanced, and tactically flexible. On paper, this was not a team you dismantle like that. However, PSG completely tore them apart. PSG might not have been quote-unquote the most balanced team in the traditional sense, but their attack was simply unstoppable. The front line was absolutely ruthless, the midfield was dynamic, and the fullbacks were monsters going forward. The flexibility in this team was ridiculous. Players were popping up everywhere. When a right back is arriving in the striker's position and scoring goals, how would you even prepare for that tactically? At that point, no system can save you. It was domination in every phase of the game. And yes, if this had been any other match, we'd probably call it boring because of how one-sided it was. But this wasn't a match. This was the Champions League final, one of the most anticipated games in world football. And because of that, the sheer scale of dominance made it unforgettable. We've witnessed history. At number 4, we have Barcelona vs Atletico Madrid in the Copa del Rey semi-finals. A game that somehow ended 4-4, leaving everything to play in the second leg. And honestly, this match was entertaining in every possible way. This was Barcelona at the peak of football last season. An insane attacking output where goals felt guaranteed, paired with a completely suicidal high line. Every single match felt like it could have ended something like 5-4 or 4-3 or 6-2. Add to the fact that this was a Copa del Rey semi-final with the treble still technically on the line. And you had absolute chaos written all over it. Now let's talk about the opening minutes because Barcelona completely crumbled. That high line got brutally exposed by Julian Alvarez and Antoine Griezmann, and within 6 minutes, Atletico Madrid were already 2-0 up. 10 minutes in, and Barcelona were 2 goals down, and honestly it started to feel like we were watching the trailer for another 7-1 or 8-2 disaster. That defense looked as clueless as you in your maths exam, but then Barcelona locked in. Pedri looked around, saw the performances being put in by Dani Olmo and Ferran Torres and basically decided that he had seen enough and he needs to step up. He then produced a moment of brilliance and scored to drag Barcelona back into the game and completely flip the momentum. From that moment on, Atletico Madrid's defense just fell apart. Barcelona just switched on and turned into prime Arsenal from set pieces. 2 goals from 2 corners, scored by the oldest and youngest centre-back duo, Inigo Martinez and Pau Cubarsí. Honestly, this is how I imagined that partnership worked. Anyways, by halftime, Barcelona had gone from 2-0 down to 3-2. Absolute madness. Remontada completed. And then, in the second half, in the 74th minute, Robert Lewandowski makes it 4-2 after a ridiculous Lamine Yamal dribble that cut through Atletico's entire defense. At that point, Atletico looked about as prepared as a security guard trying to stop the Guardians of the Galaxy. At 4-2, everyone thought that the game was over and Barcelona are easily through. But this is Barcelona. No matter how good the players are, no matter how entertaining that look, there's always that little bottling gin, especially against Atletico Madrid. In the 84th minute, Marcos Llorente put one back. But then, in the 90 plus 3rd minute, Alexander Sørloth scored again to make it 4-4 for Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid completely flipped the momentum back into their favor right at the death. What made this game so special was the flow. It started in Atletico's favor, then Barcelona went on a goal-scoring rampage, and just when it felt it was done, Atletico fired back. You genuinely couldn't predict what was going to happen next. Pure chaos, pure entertainment, incredible talent on display, one of Barcelona's finest matches of the year. And yeah, the second leg was about as interesting as watching paint dry, but we don't talk about that. At number 3, we have Juventus vs Inter Milan in the Serie A match, which ended 4-3 to Juventus, and honestly had everything you could possibly want as a neutral. It had screamers, comebacks, chaos, and some amount of family drama. This was a masterclass in entertainment from start to finish. The matter started in the 14th minute when Lloyd Kelly scored the opener for Juventus in a brilliant goal to make it 1-0. But Inter didn't take long to respond. In the 30th minute, Hakan Çalhanoğlu equalized with an actual thunderbolt from after the box. It was pure quality in that strike. And just 8 minutes later, we saw it from another Turkish player. Kenan Yıldız stepped up for Juventus and fired in a similar strike from distance to make it 2-1. At that moment, you just knew this game was going to be special. 2 long-range skimmers, end-to-end, no time to breathe. And listen, Kenan Yıldız is a serious talent. He might generally be a bigger prospect for Turkey than Arda Güler, but and then came the second half, and it somehow got even better. In the 65th minute, Hakan Çalhanoğlu struck again, this time with an arguably even better goal, restoring momentum in Inter's favor. within just half an hour, we've witnessed some unreal Turkish brilliance. Europe hasn't seen this much Turkish quality since the Ottoman times. Inter pushed on, and in the 76th minute, Marcus Thuram makes it 3-2. At that point, Inter Milan were leading. The momentum was fully with them, and it felt like Juventus were done. But this game wasn't finished, because in the 82nd minute, Juventus made it 3-3 by Kepram Thuram, Marcus Thuram's younger brother. He even brought out Marcus Thuram's celebration after the goal. I can already imagine how awkward the family dinner was going to be. Sibling rival at the highest level. And then in the stoppage time, substitute Atic scores the winner for Juventus, completing an unbelievable comeback and sealing a 4-3 victory in one of the most chaotic Serie A matches we've seen in probably years. At number 2, we have probably the most exciting, the most memorable match of the year, and honestly one of the best games of the last decade. A true classic. I'm talking about Inter Milan versus Barcelona, and more specifically, the second leg where Inter beat Barcelona 4-3 in an all-time classic. This tie had everything from tactical battles, individual brilliance, young players making mistakes, senior elite players bottling big moments, comebacks, screamers, embarrassing dribbles, hero goalkeeping, and absolute heartbreak. This was football at its absolute peak. Coming into this tie, Barcelona were on a generational run under Hans Flick. They looked unstoppable. It generally felt like they were going to win everything in front of them, including Inter Milan. But Inter weren't just any team. This was Simone Inzaghi versus Hans Flick, two elite coaches. Best defense in Europe versus one of the best attacks in the world. And from the very start, the game delivered. In typical Barcelona fashion, that suicidal high line was exposed early, and Lautaro Martinez opened the scoring for Inter, and just before half-time, disaster struck. A mistake from the young Pau Kubasi led to a controversial penalty. Hakan Çalhanoğlu stepped up and calmly bared it. 2-0 to Inter. At half-time, it generally looked like Inter Milan were cruising into the Champions League final, but Barcelona, being Barcelona, refused to die. When the team needed someone to step up, the most unexpected man on the pitch turned into David Beckham for 6 minutes. Not a winger, not a midfielder, the left back, Gerard Martin. Out of nowhere, he delivered 2 perfect crosses in 6 minutes, both converted clinically. Just like that, Barcelona were back in the tie. For the next 15 to 20 minutes, it was pure chaos. End-to-end football, momentum swinging like a pendulum. 2 giants trading blows. And then, in the 87th minute, the man in form, Rafinha, scored what looked like the winner. At that moment, Barcelona were going to the Champions League final. The comeback was complete. The narrative was written. But then, heartbreak, as in stoppage time, Francesco Acerbi stepped up and stunned Barcelona fans 3-3. Let's be honest there. Ronald Araujo has to do better. At this stage of the Champions League, you cannot lose a duel like that. A centre-back getting beaten by another centre-back in stoppage time. That was unforgivable. Once again, Araujo costing Barcelona on the biggest stage. It feels like I've seen the script before. It's 6-6 on aggregate. Within extra time, everything is on the line. And then in 99th minute, David Frattesi scored for Inter Milan to make the score 4-3, and that was it. Barcelona couldn't respond. The dream was over. Inter won 4-3, knocked out the most dangerous team on the planet, and advanced to the Champions League final. But they went to lose 5-0 in the final. But anyways, this tie, especially the second leg, had everything a football fan could ever ask for. And now, we arrive at number 1, the moment you've all been waiting for. This might be a slightly different pick, because it's kind of niche. It wasn't a Champions League final, it wasn't stacked with Ballon d'Or winners, and it wasn't quote-unquote elite football on paper. But in terms of pure entertainment, emotions, and reminding fans why they fell in love with football in the first place, nothing tops this. I'm talking about Manchester United versus Lyon, the second leg of the Europa League quarter-final. And honestly, if you missed this match, I genuinely feel sorry for you, because this was one of the most insane, chaotic, emotional football matches I've seen in recent years. United come into the second leg as favourites, playing at Old Trafford, where miracles are supposed to happen. And early on, it looked routine. In the 10th minute, Manu Ugarte scores to give United the lead. And just before half-time, Diogo Dalot makes it 2-0. At half-time, it's simple. Just have a calm second half, manage the game, and job done. Isn't it? Of course not. This is Manchester United in big 2025. In typical United fashion, they completely lose control. They concede 2 goals in 6 minutes. Just like that, everything they worked for is gone. The momentum swings, and the Old Trafford goes quiet. But then, Lyon decides to join the chaos. In 89th minute, Lyon gets the red card. At that moment, you are right to think that this is it, United will push on. Except, it somehow looks like United with the team down to 10 men. In the 104th minute, Lyon with a man down, Ryan Cherki scores an absolute screamer. Down to 10 men and Lyon are winning. This was humiliating. 5 minutes later, it gets even worse. United concede a penalty. And at this point, United have gone from 2-0 up to 4-2 down against 10 men. For a moment, it genuinely looked like Lyon had pulled off one of the greatest comebacks even after getting a red card. But football had other plans that day. In the 114th minute, Manchester United are awarded a penalty. Bruno Fernandes steps up, ice cold penalty taken, it becomes 4-3. But still, they're one goal behind. And then, in the 120th minute, a moment that completely defines this club. From the bench, Kobe Mainu, the academy team, the future, he dribbles into the box and scores an unbelievable goal to make it 4-4. Old Trafford erupts into madness. And then, because football is scripted, 2 minutes later, a long ball from Casemiro, and the man who steps up is Harry Maguire. Yes, Harry Maguire. He finishes like a striker to make it 5-4 for Manchester United. In a span of 6 to 7 minutes, United scored 3 goals in the last minutes of extra time. Comeback that should have not existed. The game that made no sense. The game that had everything. Sure, United went to lose against Tottenham in the bloody final, but that doesn't matter. This match reminded us what football is about. It reminded us that at Old Trafford, miracle still happened. It wasn't because of the tactics, the quality, but because football is football.